talk about my experience with reward power. I'm actually an office manager slash bookkeeper. So I'm in charge of people's hours and paying them bonuses. I'm in charge of overall office function. So I do a lot of different things with the employees to kind of keep them, I guess, on target or keep them from calling out. And a lot of it, oh God, sorry, someone honked. A lot of it involves, like we do different like quarterly bonuses and things like that. If people don't miss days or, if they go above and beyond. So just kind of rewarding them for their behavior. And it seems to work really well in the office. Everyone responds to it really well. So I guess that's my experience with reward power. And as a bookkeeper too, I mean, I cut everyone's paycheck. So it's kind of a big thing, I guess.
That's a really good reward, getting that.
Yeah, everyone loves that reward.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's it.
Okay. Bridget, do you want to go?
Alrighty, I will also give an example of reward power. In the book, it also mentioned about working overtime, for example, which is something that I can relate to. That currently at my workplace as a follower, we are really backlogged, and sometimes my management they'll have us stay like 30 to 2 hours later, depending on how bad the workload is. And sometimes they'll give us like a half a day off, or they'll bring food and stuff, which is really nice. And there was a case study on page 140, and it was just talking about how money is of a reward that some people like, but it doesn't always have the best retention for providing the best work for the organization, because sometimes what happens is the company will offer us money, and we will try and get more and more, and once that stops, we kind of stop being motivated because we're not getting more money as far as rewards. And let's see, I also had another example. I'm just looking really fast. um, I have an example for my sister, in legitimate power. Just she works in HR, and sometimes her management will ask her to order food for different facilities, which is what the assistant is responsible for. And it's kind of just you do what the boss says, and you can't really question it, because you question the actions of the boss, probably won't end up the best result. So I'll give two examples on that. I don't know how I am on time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We've got plenty of time. We're doing good.
Oh, I do. Okay. All right. And let's see. I'll go for referent power, also regarding to overtime. And what happens is my boss will kind of tell me, like, hey, can you stay overtime today? And even though I don't want to, but I'll stay because she asked me to as a personal favor. And then there's other things that come up, like school, for example, or I'm just like really tired from working all the overtime. And that type of power I don't think is long term. It's a temporary type of power. So I wouldn't use that type of power.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I have something to kind of tie into that. I was going to say that I'm I'm a shift supervisor right now at Starbucks, and so I kind of feel like my power strategies are kind of like being an expert in my field, like making sure I know like what I'm talking about, so I gain more credibility. And then I also refer to referent power, because I kind of want to be like I kind of take referent power as being like a role model, like to my other employees, and like I wouldn't ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do. And you're right that I do feel like that does kind of get into like the abuse of it if you continually ask them to like do you personal favors. But I don't necessarily ask them to do me personal favors all the time. I just ask them to do things that like I would do. Like, for example, like doing a trash run. No one likes taking out the garbage, but like I do that. Like I'm not like a shift supervisor that's just like, hey, you do this, and I just you make them do all the grunt work while I like stand by the sidelines. So I feel like that's the kind of leader that I try to be. But one thing I do struggle with at my work right now is it's such a close-knit environment that we're all kind of like friends in a way. So it's kind of weird being their supervisor when I also like value them as individuals and consider them as my friends. So it's hard to resist their like influence. And it talked about like social proof, like validation for like compliance in our book. And so it says social proof refers to deciding how to act based on what others are doing. So like it's hard for me to kind of nip things in the bud, like, hey, you shouldn't be on your cell phone right now, like, you know, you're not on your break. And I kind of want them to like me, but I also have to be their boss at the same time. So that's kind of something I kind of struggle with, but I try to think of how it will benefit them in the long run. So that's all I got so far.
Okay, that was good. I'll go next. I was really drawn to expert power the most because in my job, we're in consulting. So we have to go in and talk to clients and kind of let them understand that we're the experts in certain areas, in certain fields. So we have to use that a lot. So it's constantly, like I'll bring people with me that I know have 20 years of experience in healthcare. So I know that they help me to use their power to make me look better as well. So I rely on expert power for other people to come with me. And at the same time, I try to have that myself. So I'm constantly in training and learning and studying so I can be as expert in my field as I can as well, because I know that holds a lot of influence. I also like reward power because for years I've been in a business where we get rewarded for closing new business or having our clients give us really high ratings. So like we'll get a salary bump or a bonus or commissions. So we used to joke that our the roles that we were in were we were like there's a slot machine on the back of our necks that like we're motivated by people putting money down the slot, you know. So we're if something changes that we're always willing to do it and try it out if we can be financially rewarded for it. So I liked those two, and Bridget, to your point too, or I think it was Megan, referent or power where you're a role model, and I try to do that as well. So sometimes the power that I'm most influenced by is different than the power that I use. So I thought that it was interesting that they all have their pros and cons, and they all can be used at different times in different situations.
Yeah.
Luther, your turn.
Ooh. Yeah, so I'm up. I chose to also talk about expert power, both kind of from both ends. I guess my first experience with expert power was kind of on the other side, where in the workplace I gave some ideas about a topic that I knew what I was talking about. In this specific example, like social media and digital marketing, but my role in that particular company wasn't related to that field. So I made my opinion known about, you know, hey, this is what we should do, or this is kind of what's typical, you know, in the industry or what companies will usually do as far as their social media strategy. And they're tried to seem receptive, but then they're like, okay, well, now we're going to go get somebody else who I actually felt was a little less experienced than I was, but she marketed herself as a social media expert. So then they asked her. Of course, she said the exact same thing that I said, but they were like, okay, that made them feel at ease. They were more comfortable with her opinion. On the other side of the issue, I've also done some freelance work in that kind of consultant capacity. So I've experienced kind of what it's like when you go in and you bill yourself, you know, as an expert in a particular field, and how that kind of changes the dynamic or how people interact with you, or how the weight, or you know, the amount of water that your opinion holds. So that's kind of a benefit of framing yourself as an expert or using expert power to kind of get the reception that you need, so people take your opinion seriously. And then I also wanted to touch kind of on ecological power. Just a specific example of kind of controlling the way that work happens as knowing how to kind of run a meeting. So I'm a big fan of when you have a meeting, that there should be somebody who's elected. This person is running the meeting, and they're going to run the agenda and kind of help keep everybody on task. And I saw that kind of as an example of ecological power, just kind of controlling the environment, a very specific environment, and how the workflow is done so that you can be efficient. Because I think everybody knows how meetings can sometimes run away and get off topic pretty fast. So those were the two styles of power that I wanted to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good points.
Yeah. We're at almost like 10, almost 11 minutes. So does anybody have any comments or wrap up that they want to provide?
No, I think we all did a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So I'll stop the broadcast then.